My name is Kathy Baumgartner-Hetrick, and Steve Philippi and I undertook a very large project this year of the 250th anniversary of Palmyra. We have decided to do some oral histories of people who have lived in Palmyra. Most of them are over the age of 80 or 85, and we asked them to tell us their story about Palmyra so that we could put together a DVD that you're going to watch now that has the stories of Palmyra based on the people who have lived here. We hope you enjoy it. We've had a fun time doing it, and we think you'll learn a lot about Palmyra and the history of Palmyra through the stories of Palmyra.
My name is Helen Warple. I was born September the 15th, 1930. I am the first licensed woman bus driver in Pennsylvania.
And tell us why that would be. Why would you choose to drive a bus?
My dad owns a bus business.
Okay, so
my brothers were in the service, and we owned a snow plow. The Department of State hired us to plow snow, and I drove the rig, the dump truck, and my dad operated the shovel and stuff like that. And I drove school bus for the Palmyra kids and the Londonderry kids. I was a substitute for a while.
So you've seen a lot of school children go through the Palmyra school
my
system.
gosh, you cannot believe.
Why don't you tell us who you are and when you came to Palmyra? Were you born and raised here the whole time? Okay. Tell us who you are.
Dorothy Sherman Marshall.
Okay.
I was born in
You don't have to tell us the date.
July 11th, 1928.
1928, so you've lived here.
I'm older than Helen.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
A couple of years. I lived on Main Street in Miss Turvey's house. She was a school teacher in Palmyra.
Yes.
That's the house I was born in.
Okay, and where is it? I
It's
know.
right next to the Cinderella shop. That house right next to the Cinderella
Okay,
shop.
all right. Okay,
In Miss
Mr.
Turvey.
Okay.
And between her and the Cinderella shop was Dougal's dry cleaner.
Dougal's or
Yes.
Dunkels? Was it Dunkels?
Dougal.
Dunkels, okay.
But they were on
They moved back then later on.
College Street or something. Yeah, okay, I remember
And
that.
that was Bone and Bake Shop there in the corner.
I was gonna say, that wasn't the Cinderella
No,
shop.
Baum's
That,
Bakery.
so when you were born, was it Baum's Bakery?
I think
At
so.
that point?
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I can remember that now, but I never went in there.
And what you were telling me about some other businesses in Palmyra that, just like Baum's Bakery is no
They're
longer
all
there.
businesses that aren't there now.
Name a couple of those, and maybe Helen will remember.
Bell's Meat Market,
Bell's Meat Market, and where was that located?
he should know.
North Railroad, wasn't it?
Right there, but it was called Doc Light's Garage,
Okay,
and he was right beside that Doc Light's Garage,
okay,
between what is now the hobby shop and the Main Street there in the corner. What is Pastimes or something.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
He
okay.
was in between there, Bell's
Okay.
Meat Market. And the Doc Light's Garage was right next to that. Bishop's Restaurant was on the corner.
Bishop's Restaurant was right where later hers,
Mhm.
where hers appliance store was, okay. All right, right in the corner there.
And then across the street was there, like Crider's music store. It was right along the alley. And then across from that was Kaufman's Jewelry Store.
I know, Kaufman's was there.
Uh-huh. And there was a Farmer's Restaurant down Railroad Street.
Okay.
The Western Auto Store was down there. Farmer's Market.
There was a farmer's market? Oh.
And Carl Brandt's store, grocery store.
Grocery store, we were talking before about all the little grocery stores that were located.
And next to ASK at one time, it was Boyer's Grocery Store.
Boyer's, okay, that's right, I remember that. I remember Boyer's grocery store. But then before that, wasn't it Hassler's? Is that where Hassler's was?
I think he was on Main Street down, remember Henry Seltzer had a little store?
Yeah, I know that name.
I think Hassler was in, he sold Venetian blinds.
What was he, Hassler was a grocery store too.
It might have been different
Mhm.
Boyer's is.
And Hall's Drugstore, that was a drugstore, right, a pharmacy.
Mhm.
That was down
Down
along,
farther.
yeah.
And there's a bowling alley
Where was the bowling alley?
on Main Street.
Really?
Mhm. Near the Seltzer Theater.
Okay, up that
Oh,
way, okay.
yeah,
Flip it back and
yeah.
forth.
There's a restaurant in the front and the bowling alley was in the back.
What was it called, the Red Palm? Palm, I think, something.
I don't recall what the name of that was.
It was a restaurant and a bowling alley in the back, yeah. My Aunt Blanche cooked there, I
And
think.
across from that was the Monarch grocery store and the post office.
The post office was over there, and then later that became Hosteders in that same building.
No,
And Keeney's.
Keeney's, it was a Disney shoe store too in town.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about Speeces a little bit. That hasn't come up. Speeces was
She
very
worked
popular.
there.
Oh, you worked at Speeces?
She can,
28 years.
Oh, my goodness.
yeah, we can
Well,
talk
how did
about
that get started? So what's the story about the
They lived
Speeces?
in the basement.
Oh, really?
And they started that store.
Oh, my goodness.
They lived in the basement.
And how did your father get involved in bus driving?
He never learned to drive. He worked for the Bethlehem Steel in Lebanon.
Okay.
He lived in Avon. And I guess business got rather poor or something. And Hershey became the big talk at that time. And that's when he decided to move to where the Bucks Farm is, and his dad lived back on the farm. I don't know who lives there now. They just sold it for, oh gosh, we couldn't get over $300,000. My brother Chet was the one that worked for Morris Long. And the first bus that we had the wooden seat that ran down from the bus driver to the back.
Okay.
There was no seats other than that, but you sat on both sides of that seat. So he bought the first bus, and now, I don't know what, we numbered them, and they're way up to 133 I saw, the last bus that I saw. And that might not be.
So that's where those numbers come from, the order in which you purchased them through the year. You talked about the mom and pop stores and how Palmyra has changed from
Oh, yes.
all those mom and pop stores to the, you talked about Baumgartner's Dairy. My understanding is that in the 60s, that's about when this happened, because people started going to the Acme and the A&P and the bigger grocery stores that
Yeah.
had suppliers coming in. One of the persons that we talked with worked for Kraft, and he talked about Kraft and Palmyra
Yes.
packaged the cheese
Yeah.
for the bigger stores.
Yeah.
So from the late 50s, early 60s, those mom and pop stores sort of went out of
Fading away.
business, and the bigger stores came in. Well, we're going to have to wrap this up, but I really appreciated this. Yes, I would love to have that. Thank you very,
Read
very
my
much.
writing.